right now we are in the second episode of Dare to Begin. We all know that India is a nation of largest youth population, and the youth population is going to play a major role in the progress of the country, in the economic growth of the country. Uh, all this youth need is a right mentor and a teacher to guide them into a right direction. More innovative leaders takes the country into the more progressive way. For creating the leaders, we need right mentors and right teachers, right coaches to guide them in the right direction. Here we have Mr. Gaurav Sharma, who is one such personality, who is an entrepreneur, teacher, and mentor who's consistently in touch with students across the nation. And he also had his own startup, and right now he is the chief business officer in the hyperlocal e-commerce, which is in the most trend now after, especially after pandemic. Hyperlocal e-commerce is something everybody is looking forward to. And we have Gaurav Sharma, who is the chief business officer of Nearstore. And I was also a student for him back when I was in SIMC. One of the most engaging sessions we had was from Mr. Gaurav Sharma. So, hello, sir. Welcoming you to my podcast. Uh,
Hi, Arjun. Thank you so much for inviting me over. It's always a pleasure to talk to people like you because people like you are actually doing a lot of new things, different things, and trying to change the world and the system around us. And we need the impetus, we need the energies of people like you to to drive us and keep us challenging. So thanks a lot for having me here. I'm really delighted to be here.
Thank you, sir. So, the purpose behind this entire podcast, because I have been thinking about this podcast for a long time. I've started my startup like exactly 1 year back, and I would say the most uh, e- engaging period was right after the pandemic. So during this session, I had an opportunity to interact with lot many entrepreneurs and mentors across the industry and across the country. So what I realized is there is a huge potential in the youth, and we need more startups and more innovative businesses coming up in the country to solve more business problems in the country. And entrepreneurship as a career option is till now it's a myth, and not many people want to get into business, and still they want to work for a bigger corporation or a bigger network. That is where the main goal is being. But the youth of the country, I feel, is capable of doing beyond what they are doing presently. Many people are phenomenally doing great. At the same time, I see a lot of potential, and I see a lot of opportunity which people are not tapping. So that's why the main idea of this particular podcast is to show a way and tell the people to get into entrepreneurship as a career option, and people should dare to begin. That's why I call this podcast Dare to Begin. So many of us dared at one point in time in our lives. We wanted to take that step to start something new, or create certain impact or change in the space wherever we are working. So this podcast is to tell about more opportunities, or tell about the actual journey behind the entrepreneurship. So could you tell us about your journey and how you have started? Because you have been into corporate as well, you have been into a startup world as well. Right now, you are into a chief officer role in a innovative startup. So how is this journey, and what would you like to tell about the entire startup scenario and the opportunities behind it?
Yeah, so Arjun, let me start by saying that you I think hit the nail on its head when you said people don't think of entrepreneurship as a serious career option. Not most. Most people think that it's safer to work in a corporate environment. Um, and my story is no different. I started my career with BMG Crescendo, which is now Sony BMG. It's a music company. The only
Right.
difference in my case was that when I told my father that I wanted to leave, I got a job in Zenith Computers, and at that point in time, Zenith Computers was a very sought after name. It still is. However, it's in a different format now. You see it as VU, consumer electronics, television screens, etc. Um, and I got a job there and a very promising career. But somehow it just didn't appeal to me. I just thought that I wasn't cut out for it. And I told my father that I wanted to change my career in 15 days after joining Zenith Computers. And fresh out of management college, that was a dream come true, a good job. My father, mother were very happy, proud that, their son had got a very good, stable job and he had a bright career in front of him now. And then I come and tell my father that, Dad, Baba, मेरे को अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, मेरा मन नहीं लग रहा है. I don't think I'm cut out for it. I want to join a music company. And I could see the expression of shock in their faces. तो म्यूजिक कंपनी में करोगे क्या तुम? What the hell will you do there? कोई करियर भी होता है क्या म्यूजिक कंपनी में? And that's when I applied to a lot of music companies, and I got through EMG Crescendo, and I spent 5.5 years in that company. Some of my most beautiful memories, learning experiences, I can say I derived from that experience. Because my job involved me to work with music, international music, and think of brands I could do alliances. So in a way, it was alliances in sales, and that's where I got the kid of sales, kid of doing sales. Um, but I think my parents were pretty supportive in the fact that they said, "ठीक है, तुमको जो मन है करो. If you really feel you can do a good job, go ahead and do it." I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, the only fear I had that fear, and I'm sure that most of us have that fear. I have a salaried job, and I have an yearly appraisal, and I seem to be doing reasonably well for myself. So why should I quit? I'll get a 25 or 30% increment next year. I'll maybe get a good promotion, good posting. Why the hell should I leave all this for starting something that I don't even know will succeed? Because there are no guarantees in running your own startup. So after working in a corporate environment for I would say about 15 or 18 years, I finally decided that I wanted to do something on my own, and I'll tell you why that thought came into my mind. I was in Omnicom Media Group, beg your pardon, which is a very leading advertising
Media.
agency and media agency, and I was hired to take on the role of leading mobile marketing for them for the non-Unilever business, because there was a separate department looking after mobile marketing for HUL. And I worked in the agency for 3 years in two different capacities. It's another thing that I ended up working, for HUL also, and I was associated with one of their prestigious platforms, Kankajura Tesan, for which the agency and I both were awarded 4 Cannes Lions. Uh, a prestigious thing for a
Amazing.
person who had just joined the agency, and I wasn't even 6 months old in the company at that point in time. So I dealt in two roles. One was mobile marketing, and the other was innovations in the media space. But one thing left me a little jaded, I would say, in the fact that I think agencies in India can do far more. But somehow or the other, unfortunately, that's my personal opinion. I love the people I work with in the agency, and I'm not trying to say that it's a bad place or you don't learn anything. I learned, as I said, my most prestigious moment came at Omnicom. So I have a deep respect and a deep emotional attachment to what I did. But the fact remains that conventional agencies just focus upon the obvious. In the sense, a media agency will look upon just selling media. A social media agency, on the other hand, will just look at doing social media. Um, a mobile marketing agency or a content agency will work only in a specified area. And I understand why, because these are very super specialized fields, and you need you need people with deep knowledge to drive these portfolios, and that's a very valid point. But I think the agencies have to push the envelope now. And I think COVID-19, the pandemic, has taught us that you know this time has been the best as far as digital transformation is concerned. In fact, I'm sure you've read reports, Arjun, that the amount of transformation in companies in India and typically in e-commerce that has happened in the last 6 to 9 months was what we were anticipating to happen in 5 to 10 years. You know, so I think the fact is that I spotted a gap that agencies weren't able to fulfill, conventional agencies. And the gap was there's a huge startup community working on brilliant platforms and products in India. The only problem that most of them face is that despite their platforms and products being good, relevant, they don't have a voice, or they don't get the opportunity to meet the clients that they should to pitch their products. That was the starting thought of how I started What's Cooking Solutions. And then I started reaching out to platform owners, product owners, and I started tying up with companies. And my simple pitch was this: I will behave, or I will be a pre-sales or a sales employee for you. You just don't have to pay me a fixed salary. You pay me. So I had a performance model with them. If I perform, you pay. If I don't, you don't pay me, which they really loved. They were like, we don't have anything to lose. And if we have to
Right.
hire a person of your caliber and your experience of 15 to 18 years in that field, we'll have to pay a lot of money to that person as salary. And if you're ready to take this plunge and do it as an experiment for us, we have no problem. That's how it started in the beginning. And I partnered with one, the one became two, two became five, five became 10, 10 became 15. And since I had more than 2 decades of experience in sales, my client book was very strong. And I had very deep relationships with clients. And now I could approach them and say, hey, listen, why don't you just tell me your business problems that you're facing today and your objectives for the next 12 months? I'm just here to hear your problems. I will take down notes of all that you tell me, and I'll try and come back with solutions. And what I used to do is I used to go back, mull over which of these 15, 10, 15 companies I could work with, take solution A from company one, solution B from company two, solution three from company C, merge all that in one common deck, go back to the client in time, make a presentation, and try and convince them and say, hey, listen, I have solutions for you, maybe 5 solutions. But if you were to talk to someone else, you will have to meet 5 or 10 people or companies to get to do this. The advantage of
Right.
talking to me is that I'm a one-stop shop for any unconventional thing that you want to do. That was the idea of What's Cooking Solutions, and I think we did a very reasonably a good job in the last 4.5 years that that the company was functional. Now I know you will turn around and say, hey, listen, if it was good for you, then why did you join near the store? Why wouldn't you continue with What's Cooking? My challenge was I wasn't getting scale. So I had plateaued.
Right.
So from a zero billing, I had come to say 100 billing, but I wasn't able to take the 100 billing to 200, 300, 400. That was my challenge. I could have lived off that
Right.
billing forever, but that wasn't, see,
Right.
that will not give you the kick. That will not give you
Right.
the satisfaction. That will not give you the,
Exactly.
exactly, the itch will not go away, and you'll come back to the same problem saying, ये तो कर चुका था मैं last year
Right.
भी, उसके पहले भी किया. What is a new
Right.
thing that I'm doing? So I would be stuck in the same rut that I was stuck
Right.
in my
Right.
previous assignment. So that's basically it. And luckily for me, one of the partners and companies I was consulting with in What's Cooking Solutions happened to be the founders of Near.Store.
Okay.
So the founders actually, so the CEO and the co-founder of Near.Store actually pitched to me saying, hey, listen,
Right.
you can continue with What's Cooking Solutions, and I think it's a very good thing that you're doing. But if you come on board full time with us,
Right.
you and us have worked for about 4.5 years now. So
Right.
Beacon Stock, in fact, was the company that Ashish, Divakar, and Ramki had co-founded. I did a lot of work around Beacon's marketing and proximity marketing with them. And
Right.
the same 3 people started Near.Store. And they
Right.
said the advantage that you will have here is that you will own a piece of the company and you can scale up things faster because we're raising funding. And at Watch Cooking Solutions, I had never even thought of raising any funds because I was just a single person, although I had a huge network at the back. But the clients just saw me. So that's the that's my transition from corporate to my own startup, or rather to my own company, and then from my own company to joining a startup. And I'm learning and learning. That's all it's been for me. it still hasn't stopped. So
Amazing.
the last 1 year
Uh,
in Nidosaur again
Totally.
has been a massive learning for us and massive expansion, massive scaling. And I'm pretty happy where I am today and the kind of work that we're doing.
Something which is really made me curious is your journey of entrepreneurship after almost 2 decades of corporate life. That is something I would say, because I know that I have worked in a corporate for 3.5 years, but even after that, taking that decision actually took me like over 1 month of 1 year of thinking whether should I do this or should I not do this, because you have a good security and people know that you are capable of earning certain amount and you're ready to go with the society's needs and challenges and requirements. But
True.
suddenly when you want to stop and turn a direction and go into a different way, there comes a lot of questions in front of you. People actually starts questioning you. People who actually believed you so much starts questioning you, like, why do you want to do it right now? What's wrong with you? Even your colleagues and friends, I have people, in fact, like some of the colleagues and friends, they started looking, are you mad? Why are you leaving the job? It's a good job, people are waiting for such job outside.
Right.
So I hope I'm saying the story of 3 years, but I can see like after 15 years or 16 years, this is something great. I think that's where you dare to begin after a long journey, which is, I think, this kind of attitude or the spirit of going for it. I think many people have that fear, right? Like probably many, I've met so many friends of mine who want to start a business, but I've seen them saying the same thing over a past 5 years but still doing the same thing what they were doing. Where is that, the push, the kick of going for it? That is something not many people have, and that is very unique to the entrepreneurs, that I feel. So what I think is, many of us, many of the people around us who want to start business can go for it, but the fear of being judged or fear of not getting successful is stopping them. And especially since you have interacted with students across the country, I would like to know what type of changes or what type of mental adaptation students can have when they want to go for a business. Let's say in a B school, people get into B school, especially in India. People get into B school in a much different way, because I was in UK. I've met people. People get into B schools after a long experience, work experience. But here it is right after the college, just to complete an MBA degree. Where do you see the transition where students can have a change in their mental mindset about entrepreneurship? Is it meant for everybody, or can anybody go for it even if they're not prepared for it? How it is happening? How they can actually approach that?
Yeah. So Arjun, I think you've again touched a very poignant and a very relevant point in that how do students prepare themselves in today's time and age? Uh, Whether for some who are interested in doing something on their own, how do they prepare themselves? And I think the biggest hurdles that come in the way are first and foremost recognition. So if I join a consulting firm, if I join a big corporate team, my peers, relatives, my family members, my friends, my relatives will have one perception of that boss. He's made it. She's now destined for success. And if I start something on my own at a tender age, I'm just fresh out of college. What do I know? And I take a plunge. And if it doesn't work out, um, the sense of failure for oneself and the sense of being ridiculed by a lot of others who will tell you, मैंने तो बोला था तुम बहुत छोटे हो पहले कुछ सीख लो पढ़ लो उसके बाद करो you know so have a financial base then take risks rather than getting straight out of college and then starting something on your own. So there's a lot of I think there's a lot of things that go in your mind. As far as entrepreneurship is concerned, you can't. Although I know that there are some courses available for doing for learning entrepreneurship, but it's not something that you can learn. Well, you can learn how to make a business plan and how to pitch to raise funds and how to scale and everything. But the ultimate, um, the ultimate decision, or rather the ultimate victory or loss, is all here. So until and unless you really don't make your mind a strong fort and come out of those fears that you have, uh, which I just told you earlier, it's very difficult for anyone, whether you're cut out for it or you're not. And in as far as being cut out for it is concerned, see, common sense will say students who come from a business background, matlab, my father or my mother, a very successful business, and I have, so I've seen that environment when I was growing up. Common sense would suggest that those people should be very good, with starting a business of their own because they've seen, they've heard, they've discussed only business strategies and business in the house. But if you look around and you see the entrepreneurs who are making it big in India at the moment, most of them, if not all, are first generation startup entrepreneurs. They don't have a legacy of कि मेरे father भी entrepreneur थे. In fact, think about it, Arjun. You said you passed out your college some 2 3 years back or 4 years back. Uh, Imagine if you were to go to your parents, tell them if they ask you that, beta, what do you want to do now that your MBA is over? And you tell them, मुझे entrepreneur बनना है. I'm very sure that they turn around and say, hey, is that even a serious career option? या तुम time pass करने जा रहे हो? So I think you can't have teachers or mentors. Yes, you can have people from the industry coming and saying, listen, this is what I did in order to prevent failure. This is what I did in order to handle failures. But ultimately, your idea may be very different from any other idea at the moment. And the heart and soul of any startup is the idea. What are you trying to do, and why do you think there is a reason for your business to exist? You look at
Right.
Zomato, you look at Swiggy, you look at any startup, whether they are making money or then they're losing money. That's a very different. I don't think we've reached that stage in the discussion of of profitability in a startup because it's a very debatable question. Because it takes time to reach that stage. But ultimately, it's all about what idea do you have and why do you think you'll succeed.
Right.
So I think most important thing that students can do at the moment is, and that's something that I started doing before I took up lunch because I knew that, see, the biggest thing that happens, Arjun, is that your salary stops in an entrepreneurship.
Right.
Most startups, I'm not talking about the startup that I'm working because I'm drawing a salary, but my salary is not what I was drawing earlier, but it's much lesser than what I was drawing. Um, but that's not always the case. Uh, it's different. But I think the biggest thing is मेरी salary महीने के end में आनी बंद हो जाएगी. And if you run or like What's Cooking Solutions, I had no clue of how much I will be able to make in a particular month. Now that could be a good thing also, that could be a bad thing also, because there was no limit in my mind. I could take my billing. But I wasn't guaranteed that मेरे को account में 31st या 30th को इतनी salary तो आ ही जाएगी. It's all about the effort and hard work that you putting that you will reap later. And in larger startups, people's salaries depend upon you. You can't turn around and say, "वो इस महीने कुछ हुआ नहीं तो हम salary नहीं देंगे." In fact,
Right.
whichever startup actually started doing this, that started hiving off people, they started contracting. Those startups don't exist today. And there are so many examples.
Right.
I think, in fact, out of every 100 companies would have launched their startups, I won't be surprised in the last 5 years that the statistics show that more than 70% startups don't go beyond 5 years. Some may not even have gone beyond 3 years. But that's not the point, right? As in when you started with an idea, you believed in it. You loved it. You created it with your own hands. You had a team of people who believed in the vision that you had. So I think more than anything, keep the education aside. I think mindset is one thing that you have to be,
Mindset.
I think, very, very critical. You have to be very clear in that. let people laugh and make fun of you, even if they happen to be close family members and relatives. But you can't live your life to impress them. End of the day, and of course, this is not. I'm not saying that you should rebel and start a startup, or your own company. That's not going to work for you, because the reason has to be passion. The reason has to be belief in an idea that you can monetize it. The reason cannot be rebellion. It may or may not work all the time. So I think mindset is the most important thing, and no psychologist, no counselor in this damn world can prepare you, for that, for what lies ahead. And I think the other thing is, why don't you try? And so if I were in, let's say, for example, my first year, or my first 6 months of the college, or of doing MBA, and I have an inclination, or that love, that mujhe kuch apna karna hai, why wouldn't I start associating myself with some startups for life project internships? Why would? Because that will give me. And actually, at Near Dot Store, we are doing that. We've done live projects with Wellinkers, which is D School now. We've done live project with SDA Bocconi. We've done live projects with IBM. And we take people in bulk. We take about 30 students at one point in time who work with us for about 2 months, and we then place them in different roles: operations, sales, market research. And they're all doing work remotely for us. Not even a single student has been asked, expected to go outside their house, because we know it's not safe, and we can't demand that and expect that. We're not paying
Right,
any we're not paying any stipend. But the fact is that when these students work with us, they work under the same pressure that we are working. And
right,
obviously we benefit because we're getting, you can say, okay, you're benefiting because you're getting a cheap labor force. Yes, of course we are. But the students are winning because they are getting to see how Near Dot Store is working from up close and personal, which wouldn't have been
right,
possible if you just called me over for a session. So say, for example, let's talk about Cincy, and Cincy is interested in having a partnership with startups. It's not going to happen. It's not going to fructify if you call people from startups for delivering sessions. This cannot be done in 1, 2 hours, or even 6 hours. So it needs to be a process. So those students actually work with us for 2 months, 3 months, depending upon the time that you work with us. And they get to learn the processes, they get to learn temperaments, they get to learn the pressures. And I think it's a very good way to judge: am I cut out for this? Will I be able to handle the unpredictability? Will I be able to handle the ups and downs? Do I like working, in an office where you're not expected to punch in your attendance? No one's asking
right,
you whether you come to office. Some people are just not tuned in for that. Some people are very,
right,
मुझे तो ऑफिस जाना है, 10 to 6 काम करना है, वापस आना है, you know. So in fact, some of us don't even work from office even after the lockdown has over. Still working from home at times, but the work never stops. Work continues.
right.
Right? Less about education, more about mindset, and I think more about getting close to startups in
Startups.
areas that you like. So you can identify
Exactly.
you like and partner with them and reach out to them. Like, these colleges are
Right,
reaching to us through their placement committees, and placement coordinators. And
right.
been a very good partnership with 3 colleges already.
Amazing. Actually, I can connect a lot with this particular option because somebody who wants to choose entrepreneurship, they need to get close to startups. That's an amazing point. I think listeners can take a point from that because, as you mentioned, even our startup, we have hired a lot of project interns and interns who are in the second year and third year of their undergrad. One of the greatest employees, I mean, one of the most efficient employees right now in my startup is a person who is still in the third year of engineering, right? So right, this guy is amazing. So what he does, he started and he's one of my first hires. So he's ready to learn. When he started, he was not much involved into stuff like we actually use him for range of works right now. He's capable of learning and he's actually adapting to the situation. I think people who want to explore, people who want to get into a large entrepreneurship journey, I think this is a great option. People should get themselves close with the startups. This is an amazing point because people have the tendency, right? It's mostly the college education is stopped where the college assignments, marks, and this plays a huge role, right? That's where people are stopping themselves. But the real world is much beyond that, and that is something not many people are looking at. Only after they're getting into a job, they're facing a lot of struggle. In fact, they're not prepared to uh, go along with the speed in which the industry is going. I think the phase they are spending in college, I mean, a lot of live projects should come. Lot, I mean, even the colleges should motivate it. Many universities are doing it. I think this should increase. This will actually increase the employability of the people. I mean, that's an amazing point. And
Absolutely. And
the
Arjun, is that, this is again something I've learned from personal experiences that have gone through. The biggest roadblock, I think, is ourselves before we even look at any other person. It's our ego at the moment. And it may not be that obvious, but many a times your own ego will come in between, and say, "Hey, I don't want to pack parcels. Why the hell should I do that? That's not my job. That's supposed to be
right,
done by a courier." But
right,
when you work for a startup, in fact, during the lockdown, we pivoted and start, we actually entered the D2C space, the direct to we were doing everything from going to the retailer, picking up material from there, delivering it, if we could in private vehicles, and packing items, distributing it in our societies. We didn't have any shame in the fact that I have 20 years of work experience. I was such and such company. This is beneath my dignity.
right,
And this could be another factor that could be limiting you from actually doing what you really want to do. And I think till the point in time you are not ready. You may have heard this line that the CEO of a startup has to be someone who can do everything from what a janitor does right up to what a CEO does. So as
right,
long as you don't have the aptitude, and I couldn't agree with this, Mora. By the way, it's just not a statement, a fancy statement. I think it's what it is. And the other thing that comes with ego is that this is not my job because I've been hired in this company to do only sales. Now I'm the chief business officer, but the tasks that I am doing are far more and far because yeah, listen, there are only four founding team members in the company, Ashish, Vakar, and Ramji. Um, you cannot afford to say मैं ये नहीं करूंगा यार कौन करेगा और कोई और है नहीं. If your company
right,
has to survive, your company has to succeed, you have to look for opportunities to say, I can do this. I know it's not my role, but for the sake of my startup, for the sake of my company, I will do it and I will take on that added responsibility. And I think the people who have that kind of mental mindset, that kind of attitude and aptitude are more likely to succeed in a startup environment. People who don't have, that kind of an aptitude, nothing wrong with that, but
right,
they shouldn't stick their head out in doing something that they'll feel uncomfortable. That no, this is not. So, which is why I said, if you do live projects, you will understand what I'm doing in my daily life. And the other thing is that I say this whenever I meet students. Yeah, listen, there are a few qualities that everyone looks for in an entrepreneur. The first thing is have to hustle. And by hustling, what I mean is that you may have to hustle brands, you may have to hustle VCs, have to hustle partners, but you have to be a hustler. And I don't mean that in a
hustler,
negative way. I mean that in a very positive way. I don't mean
right,
so don't take it word by word thing. What I mean is that you need to be street smart enough to understand who to partner with, who to contact, with who has to be in your network, who can you tap at the right time, who can help you, because that's a true hustler. And raising money is not the only thing. A lot of startups have raised
right,
money, they haven't been successful. So for
right,
a variety of reasons. The other thing is you have to learn to experiment. We launched when we launched Near Store in January, our thought was and is still to digitize Kirana stores. We work
right,
very closely with Kirana stores to digitize them. We work like a Shopify and we enable an e-commerce website for them. And we do that, with very, very, we do that in such an automated manner that the retailer doesn't have to bat an eyelid before they partner with us. But that
Right.
was all before the pandemic struck. When the lockdown struck, we couldn't move out of our houses. We couldn't see the retailer. Now we just couldn't sit tight in our houses and say, "अभी क्या करें? जब मैंने lockdown हो गया तो अभी रहने देते हैं." We had to think smart. We knew and we understood that that product had to keep cold storage for some time because we couldn't activate it. We couldn't go and meet the retailer. We couldn't go and meet the general trade shopkeeper. And we pivoted and we said we know how e-commerce websites are made. We know this space very well. We know the CRM bit. Everything is in place already to aid and help the retailer. And we did the same thing. Then we deployed the same tools for brands. So keep experimenting because you may have to learn something to reject something. Not everything
Right.
may work for you at every point in time. And I think the
Right.
most important thing is you have to be stubborn,
Stubborn. Right.
but be damn stubborn. See what happens in a corporate environment is that your boss has told you something and you are scared that if you don't do what your boss has told you, maybe he or she will kick you out of the company. Or maybe he will not give you such a good appraisal. Maybe she will have a bad thing to say, when your increment is up for, up for consideration. So those factors play on your mind, and you at times think that मैं बोलूं या नहीं बोलूं, and you're like जाने दे कोई बात नहीं, बॉस बोल रहा है तो मैं कर लेता हूं, या कर लेता हूं. But in a startup, that's not how things work.
Right.
So you will have to hold on to the ground to believe in, and which is why I think it's very important for the understanding to be there in each of the founding members that
Right.
why is this person saying this? I know him, I know her, for so many years. He or she may have a very good reason to stand firm and not back out and not back down from what we believe in, right? And the last
Right.
critical thing, Arjun, in any startup is execution. If you do not execute the most fantastic and the beautiful of ideas flawlessly, your startup or any company or anything for that matter will just fail. So, hustling,
Execution.
experimenting, being stubborn, having a mindset, having no ego, and doing an execution properly, I think are five pillars for me. And they've actually stood well for me when it came to doing something on my own or even working in a startup right now.
Amazing. I think these points, it may look like a MBA lesson. I think most people talk about it, but in an entrepreneur scenario, when you're saying this, this makes a lot of sense, right? Because it is totally out of the experience and the day-to-day hustling which you have done in the startup or even in your mostly when you talked about the founding members, I can totally relate to it because when we are hiring now, even we are looking at people, not the degree, not the GPA, but people who are ready to take up things. People who are ready to experiment. That is something I'm looking at into people, right? I'm not even bothered about the degree or certificate or any type of certification because, as I told you, the student who is still in the college is adding a lot of value to the startup. So people negatively correlate the degree and the final work that they are going to do, which is, I don't know. I mean, that mindset has to come, and I think this point of yours added a lot of value. I would like to know more about your the hyperlocal e-commerce experience because we all know that after pandemic, nobody is ready to go outside, and everybody want everything in a safe and hygienic way in their doorsteps. So, can you tell us a bit about the hyperlocal e-commerce and the opportunities around there? And I can see a lot of startups, especially I think Dunzo is something which is doing phenomenally great in that particular space because many people started using it because they provide everything. And at the same time, I think Nearshore is also something similar to that. I've seen the profile, and you have mentioned about digitalizing Kirana store, which is again most important thing which the people require. What do you think about this digital transformation, and what kind of opportunities are there? And what kind of come out of this particular space? Is there any opportunities for the youngsters to get into this particular category?
Yeah, so I think Arjun, you're right. As Near Store, we work the hyper local e-commerce space, and that was a decision that we took and taken right in the beginning. We're happy that we thought like that because we are seeing a massive growth phase at the moment. And yes, thankfully, to a large extent, it has happened because of pandemic and lockdown, when retailers have actually started understanding the importance of online, because most of them now are familiar with sharing orders, getting orders on WhatsApp, being able to make payments online. All the retailers that we have physically gone to, we find that they're very open. All of them obviously have credit card machines, but they also have Paytm, Pay, Phone Pay. And, they are very open for digital modes of payment. And I think they're understanding that they have to be digital if they have to survive. Maybe not all, but yeah, I think a large majority does understand does understand that. But we as a startup are actually working in the online grocery or the e-grocery segment. D2C segment is a very large and a very big segment, and it's actually seen a lot of activity. The D2C segment itself, because a lot of brands now have started getting in. So they're using Facebook Messenger, they're using social media, they're using their own websites to start supplying goods and their own products directly to consumers. Now, it's easier said than done. There are lots of challenges in the D2C space. But when I talk about the hyperlocal e-commerce setup or rather the space, I'm only going to restrict myself to the e-grocery setup because that's where we're working. Now, the e-grocery size, if you see the market in India, is about $3 billion, and you may think, wow, that's massive, that's huge, right? It's impressive. But when you start comparing it with numbers of the total retail space market in India, you will realize that the e-grocery segment is not even 0.3% of the total uh, the total retail market size. So we still we're still a long distance away, because I think what we see is in metros, in many metros where you know everyone, and you see everyone buying online, but that's not however the case for all the entire country. um, but having said that, I think the uh, big opportunity here is that this wasn't happening about uh, 2 to 3 years back. Yes, you mentioned Dunzo. There are many partners in this space. However, they each have their own unique space to operate in. Dunzo doesn't pitch themselves as an e-commerce enablement company. They pitch themselves as a logistics company. So Dunzo's
Logistics company.
logistics, because Dunzo's pitch to retailers will be that I'll help you deliver. They have partnered with uh, delivery folks you will find standing outside shops and waiting for orders to come, just like your Zomato person stands outside restaurants. However, our model is very different. We don't work like Dunzo does. In fact, we have a very different approach to digitizing Kirana stores. What we tell Kirana stores is that, see, what they are doing, and we're actually approaching Kirana stores that have a conventional billing machine and barcode scanners. What I mean is that you go to you go to a Kirana store, you will find some of them having barcode scanners which they use and scan products to make bills. They'll have a barcode scanner, either a handle scanner or a desk or a tabletop, which is connected to their billing machines. And as and when they keep scanning the product, the bills keep getting made. We're actually targeting these shops and telling them that we have a smart box, which is the size of half a smartphone. Now, what this smart box does is that it actually plugs itself into the barcode scanner via USB cable. There is no software that we install on the POS, so we don't touch the POS billing machine at all, the computer screen, so that you see. Um, and whenever the retailer scans a product, we are able to scrape the barcode from that scan, because the barcode is what is getting scanned. And we have a huge database of barcodes with us, which helps us. In fact, we are the only company in India that has the largest barcoded database. And what I mean by that is, uh, you give me a barcode, I can tell you a corresponding product name, MRP, product image, product description. Uh, in fact, our barcode database is larger than even Big Baskets. Uh, so
Amazing.
The I think so. What we do is that we tell the retailer that आपको कुछ करना नहीं है, आपकी लाइफ बहुत आसान है, आप जैसे पहले काम कर रहे थे हमारे स्मार्ट बॉक्स को लगाने के बाद भी वैसे ही काम करो. As and when you scan the product, the same products will get shown on your website. And what do I mean by
Right.
your website? So if we are talking about store uh, called Good Morning, for example, in Prabhadevi, Good Morning General Stores, I will make a website called www.near.store/Good Morning for that store. Now, when
Right.
people go on that website, they will see the items that have been scanned only at that shop. So
Okay.
the advantage is that every website will have a different array of products which are being scanned at.
Okay.
How this helps the retailer is that this is unlike a Dunzo or a Swiggy model in which Swiggy has an app and I feature as a circle inside that app. Here I'm telling them there is no my app, there is no my environment. This is your website. There is no
Right.
one on this website. So
Right.
we are telling retailers and we're actually educating them for using this website to link it to their Google My Business profiles. About
Right.
80% retailers we meet have Google My Business set up, but they don't have
Right.
website. So although they're getting rated by consumers, consumers have no means to
Mm-hmm.
shop from that online shop from that shop. Right. So we tell the
Okay.
retailer,
Mm.
listen, we're making the website for you for free. We're giving you the smart box technology for free, not charging you anything. We only charge a performance model when ordered to the retailer. And the retailer is actually liking the sound. They love
Right.
that pay for e-commerceifying their shop, their physical shop.
Right.
Uh, and there are many players in this space who have carved out a niche for themselves. You will when you talk about hyperlocal e-commerce, you will find dime a dozen. People. If you read online, this space is just heating up. This space is, and I'm not surprised. Why? Because the Kirana Wala has now come back into focus because of the
Right.
service that it did and the goodwill it was able to generate during the
Right.
pandemic. So I think I'm not surprised with the kind of action that's happening in this space. Um, and my only two bits to people who are thinking of switching or rather making a career in this space is that it's getting hotly contested. So you better be fully prepared that so this is not a unique thing. I know that every partner is trying to do it in their own unique way, but ultimately you're solving the same problem. The consumer
Right.
doesn't see you differently. So see, if you are the consumer, Arjun, even if I told you how Near.store is different from Dunzo, you don't care because for you, delivery of groceries is important. How it happens and how the
Right.
shop is doing it, how the
Exactly.
startup is doing it, that is not important for you. So,
Right.
uh, you know, so we have to look at that point that point as well. And in fact, Swiggy got into groceries. I think they've gotten out of it. Zomato went into groceries, they got out of it. So it's not everyone's cup of tea because
Right.
what happens in grocery. So look at Amazon Pantry, look at Big Basket, look at Grofers. Although they are not your typical hyper-local e-commerce players, but they are the e-commerce players. They're actually helping you get a lot of stuff. Now, the challenge with these partners and these platforms is that one, I can guarantee you it's 6:25 right now. Go and log in onto Big Basket. They will not say we will deliver it to you today. They will give you a slot
Right.
tomorrow or maybe day after, right? You may not find all the items that you need on Big Basket because they don't behave like a typical Kirana shop. They only stock
Right.
fast moving items. You try placing an order on Flipkart, supermarket, or that matter, Amazon Pantry. You will find more than 50% items not available because they have their own
Right.
warehouses where they stock the product. And it's not physically possible to stock all SKUs of all companies that are doing business, which is where the Kiranas are uh, getting an edge because a Kirana who is in Vile Parle that may have a predominantly Gujarati population is stocking a different kind of product. Whereas a Kirana shop in Prabhadevi is stocking imported products because that is a demand that he's getting from that locality. You know, whereas if you
Right.
see Kirana owner in Bandra, Khar, and Borivali, Thane, their holding patterns and their are all different. Yes, everyone will keep a Parle G biscuit, but not everyone may keep a Kia salt. You know,
Right.
So that's the advantage in the hyperlocal e-commerce space at the moment, Arjun, and that's all. That's how I think I can summarize it up for you.
It's actually I can from the consumer point of view, I can get the point what you're saying exactly, because at the end of the day the consumers want the product, and doesn't matter from where they're going to get it. If it is not from Swiggy, I'll get it from Zomato. If it is not from Dunzo, from somewhere else. It totally makes the
So the
point,
promise
and
we
I
are
think
making, Arjun, to consumers is that we are telling them that you may not get it the same day. More often than not, you will not get it the same day on any other platform. Uh, uh, but with us, the advantage is that if you place the order today, we will ensure that the delivery happens today. Yes, I think Dunzo is also making the same promise. But there are very few players in this space who emphasize upon same day delivery. And I think groceries is something which you need. You may need urgently. It is not something that
right,
you don't plan for groceries saying 2 हफ्ते बाद की आज खरीद लेता हूँ. You in
right,
fact buy
right,
groceries for a week at most,
right.
or 4 days, and then you try to restock and top up. So this is what we are actually trying to focus upon. That we will give you, and in fact, the fastest delivery that we've ever made till date, I think, if my memory serves me right, was about 32 minutes or maybe 30 minutes. That's the fastest delivery that we ever made till now.
Congratulations, amazing. And that actually, we actually spoke about the education system and how you have interacted with a lot many students across the country. One thing I wanted to ask, in fact, two, what is the changes that we need to do basically in our education system to build more spirited entrepreneurs? How we can imbibe that into the education system, that is also a strong career option, or because many of us, even when I interacted with one of my professors from undergrad, they were not even considering about entrepreneurship as a career option, even in the long run or a short run. They are not even seeing that. In fact, he was just approaching me saying that bring more companies on board so that people want to get recruited. But that particular space and university had a lot of opportunity and space wherein they can groom young talents. So what do you think? Because since you have interacted with many people, what kind of education system changes do you think will help the future generation, considering the fast growth in edutech platforms? So how we can motivate the students to choose this as an option in their career?
See, I think, Arjun, we should be frank about this. I don't think we should expect professors, teachers to do this because uh, let's admit that we can't do what they are doing. They hold PhD holders. They have done research in a particular topic or topics. They have published papers, articles, and they are gurus in their own field. Um, don't I think it'll be unfair to hold them accountable or expect them to say that you should try and imbibe or you try and make entrepreneurship as a spirit so that students understand what it means. It's not going to happen. Which is why most conventional colleges and universities are failing visibly at it. Although they keep talking about it or they may want to do it, but they're not able to roll it out because they don't have they don't have the people to talk to students about. You can't have a you can't have a teacher teaching you about entrepreneurship. You need people who've actually, like, I would why can't we have, why there are so many successful entrepreneurs in India? Why can't we make a list of them and have them as teachers? They let's think about it. Any startup trains people under them, right? You're training so many people who you hire, and you're learning so much because of that process. Um, Bigger companies and bigger startups will hire more people, and they'll obviously have bigger and more challenges if they can train and if they know how to succeed in their business. Uh, how difficult is it for them to come and teach students? Uh, But I'll tell you the biggest roadblock. It's not for all, but for some. What happens is that when you start asking people who are highly successful to come and share their experiences for 1 day or 2 days or whole workshops, the kind of monetization that a college will, in Indian college or university, will give to an entrepreneur will not be worth the time of the entrepreneur. So unless the entrepreneur is so passionate about teaching that, okay, money is not important to me. I just want to interact and I know why I'm coming here. I'll get future talent, etc., etc., etc. But I think if you really are serious about developing this as a field, you must be ready to shell out monies for getting people. Because
Right.
come to think about it, if you take this lightly, if you think of it as a guest lecture, or if you think of it like uh, कभी कभी कर लेंगे, शौकिया कर लेंगे,
Mm-hmm.
it's always going to remain that. It's always going to remain a flash in the pan. It is never going to become a serious thing to do. So I think the mindset of colleges have to move from, well, it's a good, okay thing to have, from a must to have. I need to have this, otherwise I won't survive. And I'll tell you why colleges have that hesitation. Uh, let's take your college from where you graduated. Don't they understand the value of entrepreneurship? They very well do, but they specialize in media and communications. They cannot dedicate a lot of time to teach students about entrepreneurship because they will say that, listen, our curriculum is built in a way that we don't have enough time to impart education in media and communication. So can I how can I start talking to them and teaching them new subjects? So I think either you need to have a complete overhaul in the way you're teaching conventional subjects and electives. So even for a media and communications graduate, or a person who's undergoing that course, you can have electives. People who want to read more about, or rather know more about digital marketing, mobile marketing, entrepreneurship. You need to have a specially designed course for that elective. You need to have, and once that course has been defined, you need experts in that area to come and define the curriculum. And then let's look at what happens abroad, Arjun. When professors teach, I'm not talking about all professors, but especially for certain subjects, those professors are highly trained professionals. They are either running their own companies very successfully, or they're associated with R&D, departments of top-notch companies, in IT companies, etc., medical companies, medical hospitals, etc. They are the ones who work on grants that the government gives them to impart education to students to make them ready. Because yeah, ultimately, yeah, I want to hear from people who made it, and people like
Right.
I want to hear about Tesla not from someone who's not working at Tesla. I want to know about Tesla from Elon Musk. I want to invite Elon Musk, right?
Right.
I want to invite, for example, the CEO of there's a company called Aether Energy. They
Right.
have this fund
Electric.
electric vehicles. I would like to
Right.
invite the CEO of that company to tell me what is the future of electronic vehicles, because that sector is seeing a lot of interest and demand in the country. Especially in the face of looming high petrol prices, etc., where there's a lot of instability about petrol prices. People are looking at cheaper alternatives. So, and they shouldn't just come कि आप 1 घंटे का सेशन लीजिए, 1 घंटे में मैं क्या सीखूंगा? What am I going to learn in 1 hour? That CEO cannot
Right.
even, मतलब वो एक दिन का भी आपको 1 घंटे में बता नहीं पाएगा. So you need a very
Exactly.
focus. I think you need to overhaul the curriculum. The way I think the colleges are running it. But I think the challenge always remains that they they focused on the stream for which they have recruited the students, and the focus just remains there. I don't think anyone is ready to break the mold such a drastic way to disrupt it completely. Like who was ready for online education, Arjun, before the pandemic? And today you have nursery, lower KG students, forget about the higher classes, all sitting in front of laptop for 1 hour, 45 minutes, 30 minutes. Management students are sitting for even longer duration, 6, 8 hours a day. and taking their education online when the professors being God knows where, right? So were the professors ready for it? They weren't. Teaching on Zoom and teaching a physical class are two different things. Just because I have content doesn't mean that I'll be able to do a great job on Zoom. So I think so teachers had to upskill themselves. They had to learn new tactics. They had to learn new delivery techniques for delivering lectures on Zoom. Like the same way, you have to get experts from the fields where they've made it and come and talk to students, especially design elective course, even if it's not that's my point of view.
Awesome. So I think we are near the end of the conversation. I think we had a lot of interesting inputs from you.
Thank
Uh, Lastly, like I wanted to conclude with, because I'm planning to ask this question to all the hosts, which I'm going to get in the coming weeks and months. What is that one thing which drives you? Because being an entrepreneur has a lot of challenges, lot of tough times. There will be. It is not as much as people are looking it from outside. Like funding is there, crores of money, but there is a huge pressure and the kind of work people put in day-to-day basis. There are a lot of challenges. But what is that one thing which drives you? Have you ever thought that I shouldn't have done this, or I should have continued in my regular profession?
So I think uh, in as far as the my key takeaway is concerned from this entire thing is that sorry Arjun, I was a little distracted. You will have to edit this piece out. Could you just repeat your question? I was talking to someone when you were asking me this question.
Okay, so I was asking, what is that one thing which is driving you internally every day? Let's say, what is that one thing keeps you going? Because there will be a lot of tough times across the journey, right? People will have a lot of struggles while when they are leading a team of people, externally and internally. There are a lot of problems which we face on day-to-day basis. But entrepreneurs always keep going, and they don't quit, but they rest for sometimes. So that's what I recently read somewhere. Also, I would like to hear from you, what is that one thing which drives you internally?
So I'll tell you, Arjun, and yeah, it's a it's a good question. I think it can be answered more on an emotional level than anything else. Um, I can only tell you how I feel about it. I can't really talk about other people who you may have spoken to. But the way I look at it is that I decided to do this for upskilling my learning. In a corporate environment, my learning was like this. It was happening, but it was happening very slowly. And I wanted it to be like this, shoot drastically. Because let's admit, let's be frank to ourselves, we all have a shelf life where we can perform the best. I'm not trying to say that when you grow old and you can't work and all that. That's bullshit. But the fact remains that you will be able to contribute only in a certain specific span of time. Meaning, if I have to do sales and I have to run around, I can't do that when I'm 55. I'm most adept at doing it when I'm between 30 and 40s. So, or maybe earlier, maybe even younger than 30. So, I took upon myself um, to prove to myself. Actually, the only reason I joined the startup was yes, I was able to own the company as Ashish told me, but the other thing was that I wanted to prove to myself, saying, "Have you gone to sleep? Are you still awake? Are you in the mold to learn? Are you in the mold to do something to challenge your own self, or are you so I won't use that word complacent, but are you मैंने कर लिया, मुझे आता है, I cracked it." Uh, so one thing that I told myself is that I think because the something you told me right in the beginning of the session that I find it very intriguing that you are doing. You rather you entered a startup after serving for 22 years, or rather after working for 22 and working in a corporate environment for about 18 years. And this was one of the reasons why I did it because I wanted to ask myself this question, saying, can you do it? Can you go every day, each day in an unpredictable environment and get something out of it? So we in Hindi we say, we say that आप रोज जाके एक किसान है वो रोज जाके हल जोतता है. You till the land, and that's how you reap the benefit. It's easy to do it when you're younger because you're not that rigid in your mind. But the moment you grow older, most people tend to get a little rigid. That this is the way I will work. I wanted to challenge myself by saying, have I become rigid? Can I do this? And I think I'm very happy to say, Arjun, that I have proven to myself that I'm still flexible. I'm still, amenable to doing so many things, and I have learned a lot. This is exactly the reason my quest actually was learning. Let me tell you one last thing. Before I came joined Dot Store, I had no clue, no prior knowledge of how an hyper-local e-commerce setup works, who the players are, who the competitors are. I had no knowledge. But today, after a year, exactly a year, I joined them in mid of January. There is so much that I know about this space now that I feel so confident that I wasn't this confident when I hadn't joined them, and I wouldn't have realized, I wouldn't have had the pleasure. Today, I can confidently say that we've actually onboarded more than 300 stores in Bombay alone, despite the breaks that the pandemic put on us. 4 to 5 months just went awash. We had to pivot. We didn't. We weren't able to do what we were able for what we set out for, but we still have a good base of 300 stores who we are servicing, who we're giving orders to. We have a huge database of customers who have bought from us regularly. And this has taught me a lot of things. So I think my key takeaway is this: if given an opportunity to do this again, yes, I would want to repeat it because I want to keep telling myself that I hope you haven't gone to sleep. Stay awake.
Amazing. I think for me, the key takeaway from this particular podcast for last 1 hour, I think this is something many of the listeners can also take. There is no barrier. We cannot say age as a barrier because many people think that after 35 or 30, that's where there is a saturation. People think that they cannot start up. People cannot stop themselves saying that I'm old now. So I think your journey of starting up, daring to begin after a long journey, I think that is something phenomenal, and I think many people should get that from this particular podcast. That's a
Thanks a
amazing.
lot. It was really nice to share my experiences with you, and I hope that the listeners like it. And wish you all the best, Arjun. I know that you're doing some great work in your own setup, in your own startup, and I've seen how you scaled from from where you were 3 or 4 years back, and from where you are today. You're talking about hiring, talking about training. So you yourself are one of the breeds, and yeah, I'm sure that if you ask yourself the same question, why are you doing it? You could have easily had a plum job after passing out from CC. It's a prestigious institute. Any company would have been glad to have a resource like you, but you still chose to go
Right,
for an office career. But if
right,
I were to ask you right now, I know you're the host, but let me play the host for
yeah,
some time. If I were to ask you
right.
right now, Arjun, do you regret it or are you happy?
So in fact, to correct this, like actually I finished only last year.
Oh,
In fact, like my MBA got finished, in fact, before just right before pandemic. But I
okay.
was into the space. I was doing a lot of freelancing work, and I found my partner in my MBA, and
Oh,
that's where it started.
okay.
But I've seen this place. I've always been in touch in the startup scenario. One of my close friends were into a startup. He built it from scratch. I used to help him when I was working back in ITC. Uh, what drives me is that internal satisfaction, as you mentioned. Someday, like I felt myself that is it all you can do? I think you are capable of doing much more. That is one thing which made me to choose this as an option. The other thing is that happiness and satisfaction when you do things for yourself and you see the results in front of you. Many a times we fall, but building something from scratch and seeing the results is something gives me the kick.
Absolutely.
Uh, I think looking forward to it. We are in a very beginning stage.
All the best, Arjun. All the best.
Learning
Do well.
learning
I'm
from
sure,
all the
sure you,
people like you.
yeah, I'm sure you and your team will do a great job. You have a nice bunch with you leading the, with you leading the team. So I can wish you all the best, and I know that you'll stellar work in the coming few years. All the
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And that brings us to the end of the second episode. Stay tuned for more inspirational stories from Dare to Begin. Thanks for listening.